Hey everyone, it's Lori from Scraps by Sissy. Welcome to another fabulous Friday and Happy New Year. And now that it's the new year, that means it's Sale-a-bration time at Stampin' Up. That's right. Sale-a-bration is a sale that every time you spend $50, you get to choose something for free. This year they're going to do something just a little bit different. They're going to have a couple of steps, or I should say levels. Level 1 is when you spend $50, and this stamp set that we're using is a level 1 item. This year they have what's called a level 2, and that is when you spend $100, you can choose one of 2 items at the moment, and one of the items are these thinlits. It's called the Celebrate You thinlits, and they go with this stamp set that we're using called Amazing You. We're using the Amazing and the You thinlet today. So let's get started on this card. We're actually doing a new technique. Well, it's new to me. I don't know about everybody else. But it's called the stained glass effect. So the supplies you're going to need to create this card are a piece of Calypso coral, and it's cut at 8.5 by 4.25. Sorry, it's cut at 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4.25. I have a piece of Whisper White, and it's cut at 5 1/8 by 3 7/8. A piece of Designer Series paper that's cut at 5 3 3/4. And then we're also going to do the inside of the card today. The inside piece of Whisper White is cut at 3.5 by 4.5. We'll do that later. And then to create the stained glass, we're actually going to use a piece of vellum, and it's cut at 2 3/4 by 3 3/4, as is this piece of Whisper White. So you use that as the backing. So let's get started. Okay, so you're going to take your vellum and you're just going to wipe the embossing buddy over the vellum, and what that does is it gets the static cling off of the vellum, and you won't have those little speckles of silver embossing powder. Okay, so we're just going to stamp our flower. I'll stamp it one more time. Oops. Okay, once it's stamped, we're going to add our embossing powder. We're using silver. I like to use these little plastic containers. It makes it easier to collect the embossing powder. And now I'll hit it with the heat gun. See how pretty that is, just all by itself. Now, to create the stained glass effect, we're going to use our dark Calypso coral marker. You're going to want to make sure you have some protection on your work surface. And you're just going to flip that over and start coloring. And with the markers, you want to use one of the deeper tone markers for the stained glass effect. I tried to use the pink Pirouette, and it's too pale, even with using the darker marker. So I went with the Calypso coral instead. And the more color you lay down, the darker this is going to be. Okay, oops, missed a spot right there. Isn't that pretty? So let's put our marker away and we'll put our card together. We'll go ahead and stamp the inside sentiment first. I'll show you what the inside looks like. Isn't that pretty? Being that we were only using the word you on the front, I wanted to finish it off. And I've stamped R Simply using the smoky slate, and then this is also cut using those thinlits in silver foil, and the smoky slate ties in the gray color with the foil. Make sure we're stamping it right side up. Close enough. This is handmade, so it's not going to be exactly perfect. Okay, I'm going to get out my grid paper again. I'm going to use the fine tip glue pen. Just going to dot some of this on here. And then just going to lay that down just like that. I'll set that aside, let that dry for a minute, and finish with the rest of our card. Once you have your vellum colored, you're going to want to lay it down on some Whisper White so that you can actually see the color. With vellum, you can't just run adhesive across because it will show. So we're going to use mini glue dots, and we're going to stick them on the inside where we have embossed. And I'm actually going to put one up in the upper corner. We're going to hide that using the metallic enamel shapes. And I'm going to put one in this corner here. We'll hide that with the U. And I'm going to put one underneath these leaves too. And we'll just lay that down. And make sure that it's straight. Okay. Now we'll put the rest of the card together. I'm just going to run adhesive on the back of the cards, the designer series paper. And I wanted just a little bit of the Whisper White poking out, so that's why it's cut at only 1/8 difference. And then we're going to do the cheater method with the ribbon. That way you can be very conservative with your ribbon. And basically, you're going to take your ribbon, you've run your adhesive at the edge. I'm just going to lay that down on the back. Come back here. And lay that down. See how nice that works? Adhere it to the card base. Then I'm going to take another piece of that ribbon and I'm going to make the tie. You're going to slip that underneath, and when you go to tie your knot, when you've tucked that loop in and when you grab it, turn it around. It's easier to show you with a bigger piece, but turn it around and it'll help it make it a little bit flatter. There. And cut your tails off. Kind of mimics a bow. You don't have to worry about tying a bow. I know everybody groans when I say, okay, we're tying bows. They're going to adhere this down. Oops, we almost forgot to put this on the piece of foil. Okay, I forgot to show you this piece. I wanted to show you how to save your foil. You know you're going to hide that spot anyway, so you just cut your die out in the middle. And then when you layer this on, nobody's the wiser. Okay, we're going to lay that down right here. Okay, so I'm going to take my mini dimensionals, and they'll fit right in the middle of each of the letters, or where the letters are welded together. You can even use a half of a a half of a dimensional. We'll add our metallic enamel dots, or enamel shapes I should say. One goes up here to hide the glue dot. And then for the inside of the card, there you go. Aren't those cute? And not that hard to do. To get more information on this project, go to scrapsbysissy.com and leave a comment. I love getting comments from everybody. Thanks for stopping by, and I hope you have a fabulous Friday. Bye.